This week I have been working on the basic item card, as you can see here, along with the shop filter and navigation. But first, before I dive into that, I want to talk about some of the fixes that I've made from last week, mainly the nav resizing issue and then also the 404 error page when typing. So I just go into a larger screen and I'll just refresh that. Previously, my nav was shifting ever so slightly with home and shop. And honestly, it was a stupid mistake. And it took me a long time to figure it out. So I'm putting that out there now. The main issue was that on the home page, at the time I had a lot of pseudo text, which was causing scroll. And on the shop page, I didn't have any scroll going on. And that was causing the nav to shift slightly when it was generating the scroll. So to fix that, I've just done a simple fix, and that is to add a scroll on every page, just to make sure that nothing is jumping. So simple fix, but it works. Secondly is the 404 error page. Did some Googling to try and figure out a way to solve this, and I came across a solution on GitHub. I'll have it linked down below if you want to check that out. Basically, the idea is that you create a 404 page and also have some functions in your index.html, and it reroutes, kind of doing a lot of clever things that I don't fully understand, but it does work. So on to this week, I'll just give you a quick overview. So I've got these item cards. You can hover over it and click on for a shop detail page, which I haven't created yet. And there's also the state counter, which is independent on each card. And I also made sure that you can't go below 0 because you can't buy negative product. Code for that was pretty straightforward. If I just jump over here, I've got a counter, state, and increment and decrement function where I check if it's greater than 0. So fairly simple. And I do have a lot more that I need to do with this, but it is kind of dependent on getting some data. So obviously I want to have an image here. That'll be the product image. And I'll also need to somehow integrate this into a basket state, which is going to have to be in the parent app component so it can be used everywhere. But until I have data, that's kind of where I'm leaving the item card right now. Secondly is this nice kind of side filter navigation for the shop page itself. The idea of this being that you would click motherboards, for instance, these products would filter just to show the motherboards, the CPU, RAM, etc. What I really like is having this kind of collapsible component. The Carets change as well, that's all done with conditional classes. I'm really enjoying conditional classes. Maybe sometimes I should just be using CSS media queries a little bit more, but I quite enjoy using it. There's a few improvements that I need to make as well. So first up, I'll show you what it's like on mobile. And I have to refresh it. I'll go into that in a little bit, why I need to refresh it. But here I've got, again, it goes down a little bit of issues. So if I just show here, I've only got it on 100 view width for some reason. This just needs increasing to 100 width, just so you don't get that card outline. And if you click on accessories, which also has a drop down, it hides the component one on mobile, which is really nice. Whereas if I go back to a desktop style, it only hides the one that's being clicked, and it doesn't hide the other one. I really enjoyed building that. As I said, a few more improvements, again, kind of waiting until I get data, because the idea is that I will filter the data down. I also need to have some sort of indicator to show which one is currently selected. So for instance, this could have a small underline or some sort of marker next to the motherboards. Plus just little things like that should be a pointer rather than the cursor like that, and same for the components. One thing that I need to think about though is how do you get back to showing all the items in the shop, or if I wanted to see all the components. It's not really an easy way to do that, because if I click on components, it's just going to collapse it. It won't add a filter. So yeah, maybe I need to think about that a little bit more, but I am really happy with this little collapse going on. And again, I'll show you the code for that briefly. So I've got the is mobile, and that's the issue I've been having with the refresh. I need to refactor my code because I have this is mobile also in the nav. Well, I'll probably have it across a few other components. So all I need to do is move that to the app and then pass it down to the children. Next, I've got these hidden components and accessories that kind of toggles whether or not it hides the list. And this is the little function to check whether or not to hide the other drop-down list. So on mobile, I want that to hide the other list if it's clicked. Otherwise, just keep it open on desktop. And here is the class conditional, which changes the caret based on the whether or not it's hidden. So it adds in the FA solid straight away. Then it checks, is the component hidden? Yes, put the left caret on, otherwise show the down one. So I really enjoyed that. A really cool way to do it. And here's the list of item cards. The idea here being that I'll somehow have data loaded up here, and I will loop through my data and pass in some properties to the item card. And that's all I've been working on this week, really. With a few tweaks, kind of improving the homepage, just getting the button and removing all the text, and removing that little neon styling I had on the logo name of the shop. My goals for next week is to refactor the code so that is mobile is in the app component rather than in multiple components. That will also help with the Windows resizing. I'll just have that in the app and it will calculate there. I also want to create a state for the basket so I can start adding things to the basket. That will be a little bit tricky, I think, to implement, but should be good fun. I want to start building a little bit of a JSON file, which will have a few products in there, images, things like that, which I can then use to practice the basket and adding and removing items from there. And finally, I'd like to make a start on the product detail page, and that is, again, kind of dependent on having some data. So that may or may not happen depending how far I get. If you want to see me code this live and have a chat, well then I'll be on Twitch Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. British time. Otherwise, if you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you hit that like button, and if you'd like to see more, then please subscribe. Hope you all have a good day, and I'll catch you later.